What is going on? I want to welcome you from a half court today with episode 30 of the podcast. I, of course, am your host, Sean Murphy, joined by the Marquette Hustle, my guy with the muscle, guy from 3 that you don't want to see. It's Troy Sergey. Troy, how you doing, my guy?
It's a lot of nicknames, Sean, but I'm doing pretty good. How are you doing?
I'm doing well. Thank you for asking. It is Victory Monday on Ohio State weekend after Michigan finally beat Ohio State at football. And listen, I don't throw this term around lightly. Ohio State, y'all can kiss my ass. Anyway, but today we have a beautiful episode. Go ahead, Troy.
I saw a funny meme that said when you get your butt kicked by the school bully and then Big Brother comes in and kicks their butt for you. It's kind of like what my Michigan State Spartans had to deal with. And
then, that was such a cringy meme. I saw that meme as well.
And then your Michigan Wolverines came in. Sorry, girlfriend, who's probably listening.
This is from Half Court Reach, and every week Troy and I sit down and talk all things NBA basketball. If you'd like that, of course, be sure to subscribe to the YouTube channel. Now over 100 subscribers strong, but also be sure to follow Troy and I on Twitter at Sean Halfcourt, at Troy Sergey 44 to join the conversation, and be sure to share with your friends. With that, Troy, let us dive in. A lot of good basketball being played.
Definitely.
Let's start with the biggest story that came out today, which is that Kemba Walker, who let's say has had an up and down career since leaving the Charlotte Hornets, fair statement, is now officially out of the rotation for the New York Knicks. Tom Thibodeau confirmed to media that, quote unquote, for the time being, Kemba Walker will not be in the point guard rotation for the New York Knicks. This coming off of career lows in about every single category. He is scoring 11 points a game. He is not shooting well. He's getting 3 assists a game. He's shooting overall 44% from 2, 41% from 3, 42%, but nothing inspiring there. Just not really adding a whole lot, and it's not the greatest defensive guard either. So, Troy, it feels like the beginning of the end for Kemba Walker. What comes to mind here with this Knicks situation?
I think you hit the nail on the coffin right there. I think, this is his 10th year in the league. I think, we saw the peak of him in Charlotte with the Hornets and how he was playing at an all-star caliber level in season and out. And I think he just hit a wall. And unfortunately, I think that's the 10-year mark, 10, 11-year mark is kind of where you have to prove yourself. Either you're still a reliable player in this league, you can still produce serviceable minutes for your squad. And, if you're not on the team that drafted you, hopefully you're on a team that's contending, and hopefully you can be a role player or a piece to a championship potential contender. That's kind of where all NBA players at the year 10, 11, 12 mark are going to be, unless you're, first ballot Hall of Famer, which I don't know if Kemba Walker fits that title. And so I think that's the first option. But the second option is, you just slowly plateau your way out of the league. And I see this happening, unfortunately, with Kemba Walker.
So I don't know if I necessarily agree with the fact that it's every guy at year 10 to 12. I think it depends on what stage, as far as their age and what's going on. I mean, listen, Kemba Walker's 31 years old. You know what I mean? For a star guard in this league, that's still pretty young. Russell Westbrook's 36 years old, right? And he's coming down the way he is. Is Russ 36, or am I way butchering that?
I think you're slightly butchering that. He might be 34, 35.
Okay. Yep. I think I'm butchering that. He is 33. I am way butchering it.
Yeah.
Anyway, so Kemba Walker is by no means old, right? I think for him, honestly, a lot of it comes down to health. A lot of the injury issues he endured with Charlotte as well as in Boston. It just felt like last season, it felt like we were just waiting for Kemba Walker to come back and be that same guy, and he never was. And it just feels like Boston made a pretty swift, quick decision that they didn't want to have a future with him. And now it just felt like he was in this circumstance where he really had to come to New York and prove himself, right? Come home, be in a high spotlight situation, but also, low pressure. And, it just hasn't worked. It seemed like, I mean, especially when you're a 6-foot guard, you really require that quick burst to always be there. And if it's not there, then like, what's the difference between Kemba Walker and Ish Smith? You know what I'm saying?
And that's kind of where I was getting at though, too, Sean. When, from what I have studied at the NBA, when you are on that kind of that age gap there, you're either going to be an Ish Smith or a Russell Westbrook.
Mm-hmm.
Or out of the league, or playing in China.
That just sounds like the worst game show ever. Ish Smith or Russell Westbrook
or China.
Is there a none of the above option? I'll take the none of the above option gladly.
LeBron James is the none of the above option.
All right, I'll take Kemba. Anyway, but I mean, that just kind of speaks to what the New York Knicks have been this year, right? Correct. Which is a sum of their parts. Really, really, the highs are high, and the lows are tremendously low. I mean, let's just call it the way it is. They sucked, right? I mean, they lost 3 days ago to Phoenix, 117-97. Defensively, they're by no means the same threat that we thought they were last year. Offensively, listen, this team has always struggled on the offensive end. Kemba Walker and Evan Fournier being your solution is never exactly a combination I'm inspired by to come and fix things.
Yeah.
And you have guys all over this roster that like they fit the Thibodeau system, but like, it just feels like there's an overabundance of guards, and your top two guys, let's just call it the way it is. Neither of them can use their right hand, which is RJ Barrett and
Julius Randle.
So, I don't know about you, Troy, but when I look at the New York Knicks, I think we were way too quick to praise what was being done last year, because I thought this being a fluke was absolutely obvious. And I feel like that's exactly what this team's been, is an FLUKE fluke.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think them starting off hot maybe didn't help that fluke cause either. But I think as you get into closer and closer to the midseason, that those truths become obvious. And yeah, I mean,
and their schedule got harder too. Let's just call it the way it is.
Yeah. But give credit where credit is due. I mean, they did, push their way into a playoff spot, a fifth seed, I believe, last year. Fourth seed. You're right. But, of course, was annihilated by the Atlanta Hawks, and Trae Young exposed them. So yeah, there was nothing there. Even then where I thought they could be underdogs. I mean, they never really had even an underdog mentality to them, or even an underdog characteristics as far as guys who could potentially make a playoff run. They're kind of just like, wow, they kind of got a little lucky as far as how high of a seed they got.
Yeah, it feels like they're just middling out, hoping for a free agent to come to their team. And so we got to give up on this narrative that the Knicks are going to be a free agent destination. Correct. Because they just haven't been. I mean, listen, if there's a team that should be, it's the New York Knicks. However, you have the worst ownership in the league. You have a revolving door of coaches, general managers, presidents, basketball operations. Everything in the team is a revolving door. And so why are people going to be motivated to come to this team, especially when there's guys playing over in Brooklyn in the name of Kevin Durant and James Harden? So,
and another really important thing, Sean, is no real general direction.
None. Their literal direction is waiting for a guy to come and save them. It's, hi, Kevin, I'm your biggest fan.
Yeah.
Some people would say that Carmelo ruined the Knicks. And I would say
The
those
Knicks
people
ruined
are
the Knicks.
the Knicks ruined the Knicks. Carmelo was just part of the flavor. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
So
that's a
whoever
good way of
says
putting
that,
it.
yeah, whoever says that, absolute casual, but also thanks for listening. Anywho, Troy, that's not all. We also received news today that Klay Thompson and James Wiseman have been assigned to the Bay City Warriors.
Santa Cruz Warriors.
Santa Cruz.
Same
Hold
thing.
on. Yeah, that's the same. Is it? Okay, hold on. Okay, it's the Santa Cruz Warriors. I thought their nickname was Bay City Warriors. Anywho, we're not going to talk about it. But listen, James Wiseman, Klay Thompson, both getting ready to come back from injury. Troy, I mean the big headline here, of course, being Klay Thompson. Troy, what do you think about this move? What do you expect out of Klay Thompson coming out of injury?
It's a smart thing to do. Very smart on the Warriors staff, I think, to do that. Really,
well, it's kind of becoming the standard now, right? It's just guys
Right.
going for rehab stints, getting ready, and going to the G League system to just prepare. I mean, Cade did it his first week in the league.
Yep. And I think,
yeah.
And I think kind of the mentality, at least for those two caliber players, really your G League is going to be, I guess, harder or tougher than, maybe a high-end practice, but nowhere near the intensity of an NBA game.
Right. It's really just getting back to the rhythm of it, right?
Right. So it's going to be all about touches. It's going to be about just running up and down the floor. It's going to be about maybe just running through a motion offense kind of thing too. So, defending, just your basic basketball things that I think they're going to be using those two a lot for. And I expect a couple of three balls. I expect
a couple of three balls.
I expect a couple of three balls, a couple of nice block shots by Wiseman, rebounds. I mean, I don't think we're going to see, a G League record of most points in the game or most blocks in the game. But we're going to see them recovering from rehab and getting back in the swing of things before they hit the NBA floor. It's really that simple, Sean.
Yep. Yep. 100%. It's really just there for these guys to get some practice, really get some as close to game reps as they can get. And, just, not feel any pressure to come back super quickly. I mean, listen, Klay Thompson in the next month is going to be playing NBA basketball for the first time since June of 2019.
Yeah. Crazy.
So, this guy, if there's anybody that deserves to take all the time they need to get back and to get right, especially after everything he's been through, it's Klay Thompson. So
I agree.
I also am curious to see what James Wiseman is to this team, because I feel like he has very little margin for error, because there's a lot of guys that are playing really well that are filling his position that
Correct.
That this team is looking to win now. And so if he doesn't come in and produce, then he's probably going to ride the bench this year, right?
I would agree.
Or at least not be in the rotation nearly as much. So, I think people are writing Wiseman off way too quickly. And I think that's a mistake. I think people forget how good the Warriors front office is and their development staff is. What is your thoughts on James Wiseman?
Yeah, I'm definitely big on him. I think he is a piece to the big puzzle with the Warriors right now. I think he's a strong role player, but I do kind of see that, I think he does have to put up quick. You know what I mean? I'm not going to say it's a put up or shut up year, but he has to contribute to this team if he wants to find minutes, and he has to contribute this team. Of course, finding a rotation spot, but I think the Warriors need him. They need him to contribute. But what the Warriors have going for them is, like you said, I think if he doesn't, you do have guys to replace him. But I think they would like him to be a key contributor to that team.
Oh, of course. I mean, there is also the people out there that, and this isn't me, but there's people out there that are saying that this is just great practice runs before he gets to go play for Washington by the end of this season, which, listen,
I don't like that.
Listen, I think the Wizards are never going to trade Bradley Beal. The only way Bradley Beal gets traded is if he requests a trade, because listen, they both have just accepted they want to be miserable and they want to be miserable together. And they have come to those terms. It is true fate. The Washington Wizards, we are talking about being one of the best teams in the league. They're currently at 13-7, which is okay, but
Yeah,
they're gonna slip. I mean, listen, they are, of all the teams in the league, they are the one that I just expect the collapse to be there and to be ripe and to just be there for the picking. So,
and I think we know that because they have nothing to make them not slip. You know what I mean?
Yep. Yep. It is not solid foundation and firm ground they're standing on.
There you go.
Yep. So that is definitely something. But yeah, Troy, the Warriors at this current time without Klay Thompson are 18-2. What? So to me, a lot of us are kind of using this team as a comparison to the year they went 73-9, right? Which is the year before they had Kevin Durant come in. I mean, what other team are you going to compare them to? This is very akin to that 73-9 team, right? Because they're just blowing people out. They're on a roll. And it's not like they have all their guys, you know what I mean? What about this team is so special? Like how are they doing this to the casual eye, someone that hasn't tuned into the Warriors since Kevin Durant left? What would you tell them to pay attention to?
I say a new and improved, a hungry, I did not expect this kind of year out of Steph Curry. I mean, Sean, he is playing incredible this season. You
didn't expect this out of him?
I mean, of course I did, but not an 18-2 start and him leading the charge. I really didn't, Sean. I'm sorry.
I mean, listen, this was him last year. People aren't paying attention. Steph Curry was amazing last year. Hold on, may I pull up the stats?
You can do some stats, but I'm still blown out of the water by his performance this year and him leading the charge at the Warriors this year.
Steph Curry. Yeah. 32 points a game last year. Steph Curry, 48% from the field. Steph Curry, 42% from the three, 57% from two. Steph Curry, 92% from the free throw line. Steph Curry, 6 assists a game.
Right, but Sean leading the charge. They weren't winning like they were last year. That's what I'm getting at.
When they started pushing the offense back in Steph's hands, they were towards the end of the season when they got
I guess I wasn't paying attention when they were not going to make the playoffs and they were doing that. So sorry for being a casual on that topic. But again,
Troy, you don't have anything to apologize for. I hope you're not feeling exposed. You're fine. I just love Steph Curry. I'm defensive. I'm sorry.
Yeah. Anyways, also Jordan Poole too. Big time production from him.
Oh, 100%. Yeah. I mean, it's guys like Jordan Poole. It's the guys, it's the guys throughout this roster that are really starting to step up. I mean, Gary Payton the second.
Yeah.
I mean, Otto Porter. I mean, yeah, they're just getting phenomenal production all around. And now they're going to have Klay Thompson back in the lineup, who, in my opinion, could be the Klay of old very quickly. And you have a situation where this team could be winning a championship again as soon as June. So,
which is amazing to think about, because to think of the Lakers, right, and their roster and the hype around them, and also the Suns, and we'll get to them in a minute. But the Suns, man, and to think that as of today, I'm with you. If your pick is the Warriors right now too to be out of the West, of course, remember we talked earlier about the Lakers, but with Klay coming back and if Wiseman can perform the way we know he's capable of with his potential, I'm not picking the Lakers anymore.
If the Lakers keep this roster, they might not get out of the first round.
Yeah. I didn't say it, but I agree with it.
This roster, listen, you don't have to say it. I'll say it for you. This roster is worse than last year's Lakers team. I'd rather have Dennis Schroeder right now if I was a Lakers fan than having Russell Westbrook. especially on their money. People might have been laughing at the fact that Dennis Schroeder turned down $90 million. I'd rather have Dennis Schroeder at 90 than Russell Westbrook at 250.
Mm-hmm.
I'd rather have a lot of that roster from last year, the one I'm currently getting. If you tell me I get to have back Montrezl Harrell, Kyle Kuzma, Dennis Schroeder, if LeBron just gets to let loose this year and play point guard, I'd imagine Dennis Schroeder is better on this team this year. I'd imagine he's better as a spot up shooter. I'd imagine keeping a guy like Montrezl Harrell would be a lot better than what they have right now. I mean, listen, they're pulling a lot of undrafted rookies or second round draft picks off the bench to play minutes right now. They are bad. They are a mediocre basketball team that if Anthony Davis is hitting his shots and LeBron is putting up 35 and Russell Westbrook is just staying out of the way, they have a chance. But you can't.
Which is amazing because Anthony Davis isn't shooting well very much right now.
Well, yeah, really and that's the other thing is, it's becoming abundantly clear that Anthony Davis is not an alpha player. He is never going to be the best player on a championship team. He can be. He has the talent to be. I'm not saying he's not that. I'm not saying he's not that guy from a talent perspective. I am saying he is not that guy from the perspective that he is just playing timid basketball. Isaiah Stewart, I mean, listen to this. A guy that is so reliant on his 3-point shot. He's shooting 20% from 3. A guy who is super dependent on that jump shot. He shoots 56% inside the 3-point line. Imagine how much more efficient, how much better his game would be if he just committed to banging down to the post and occasionally shooting a 3. But I mean, listen, I understand the guy played point guard up until his junior year of high school because he grew 7 inches. But I mean, listen, you are objectively a better player and your team is objectively better when you don't shoot the 3 and when you play center. And he doesn't do it. He does it in spurts, not consistently. Troy, what have you thought watching the Lakers this year? Am I far off? What are your thoughts with watching this team?
Yeah, I can't believe we're going on this rabbit trail, but I think it's an important one.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, again, we knew it was coming with Russ, right? We knew it was coming with that. Clearly LeBron is aging, unfortunately. He's still playing decent basketball. I'm going to give him credit there.
He still has a heck of a burst to the rim.
Absolutely. But he's not the LeBron James we grew up watching.
Right.
And Anthony Davis 3-point shooting has been exactly how you described. I'm a little bit disappointed. I thought they'd be a little bit better, but I guess the pros are, I think they move the ball somewhat well. I think their spacing on the court is fine, right. But that's not going to win you a championship.
Also, that spacing gets worse when Russell Westbrook gets to the playoffs.
Right. So, yeah, I mean, they have some shooters, they can win games, but they're not the team that I expected, and they're not a championship contender in my opinion right now. So
if the playoffs were to start today, the Lakers would be an 8th seed and they would be around they would be 1 spot below the Minnesota Timberwolves and they would be 1 spot above the Memphis Grizzlies. So if that tells you that's where that team's at, with that caliber of star names on that roster. And here's the thing, this team doesn't get better. There's no light at the end of this team's tunnel. There's just not. So those who are expecting it, okay, have fun riding that horse. Speaking of a horse that has been worth riding, the Phoenix Suns. We talked about them a moment ago. I actually just did a video that came out yesterday as this episode comes out. So check that out. The Phoenix Suns are currently 17-3. They are on a 15-game winning streak. Holy crap, Troy.
Yeah.
So first of all, they are fourth in pace. They are fifth in offensive rating, and they're third in defensive rating. So as good of a team as they are offensively, even better on the defensive end. Why did we count this team out so quickly?
The aging Chris Paul.
Listen, man, people keep doubting Chris Paul. Go ahead. Career high in assists he's averaging so far this year.
It's amazing. Think about that, Sean. Think about what you just said. Chris Paul having his career high in assists this season.
Yeah, correction. It's like third, but still,
okay. Still third.
still. I mean, listen, like his two best years were his third and fourth year in the league when he was 22 and 23. He's 36 now.
Mm-hmm.
Listen, yeah, y'all can doubt Chris Paul if you want to. I personally don't play that game because I know better. And he really just unlocks that team. You know what I mean? Like Devin Booker makes his game easier. And also, let's just talk about the fact that the Robert Sarver allegations happened during this time, and that the everything leaked about that. The investigation is currently ongoing. This was supposed to be a huge distraction to derail the Phoenix Suns. They've won 15 straight.
Yeah.
So championship teams, what do they handle well? Adversity.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And now they could get to a point where they could face the Golden State Warriors in the Western Conference Finals. Troy,
right.
You asked me earlier if the Golden State Warriors are my favorites. This team is my one hurdle for the Warriors right now. Mm-hmm. If I were to say what their biggest hurdle is going to be, it's got to be the Phoenix Suns. Because listen, it's not, even though the West might be strong, the West might be weaker as a conference, I'm not inspired by a whole lot of teams right now as far as the East, as far as who can compete with these teams for a championship. So I think the Western Conference Finals, if it comes down to Devin Booker versus Steph Curry.
Inject that into my veins, Sean.
Oh my goodness, injected in my veins. But Troy, who you got? Who you got in that series right now?
Golden State.
How many games?
7.
Okay. I respect it. Who you think's the biggest X factor in that series? Because to me, it's Wiseman. Because listen, think about it. Ayton is a force down in the paint. Golden State, if they're not going to be able to get anything down by the rim, if they're not going to be able to get anything easy and they're getting forced into tough shots, that's a rough day.
Right.
DeAndre Ayton, he holds it down.
That's probably going to be my number 2 factor. But, today's a shooter's game. So I'm going to have to go Klay Thompson just to counter that.
I'm so excited for Klay to come back.
Excited
for Klay to come back.
We know what we're getting, but we don't know what we're getting because of how long he's been out. But we also know what he's capable of doing. So I guess for me right now today, Klay Thompson is my X factor.
Yeah, I can't argue with that. Absolutely can't argue with that. But hey, we're going to have a whole lot of time this year watch these two teams get better and develop. And quite frankly, I think we're going to have a great season coming up. So,
yeah. I mean, we knew that going in though too, Sean. There's so much talent. There's so much talent.
Yeah.
And to think about kind of the predictions when we're doing the report cards back this summer, we hit the nail with the Celtics too.
Mm-hmm.
And some of those Eastern Conference teams. And even like the Timberwolves we did, Atlanta. we're kind of seeing that play out now. And I think where we're at right now in the season, of course, nothing's finalized, but we at
Right.
least can see the pace where things are going. And there's exciting players to watch on every team. Every team has a good player that's worth watching.
Yeah.
And I just think, as far as coaching, as far as management, we're kind of seeing what we somewhat knew we were going to see. But of course, there's still a time and a place to talk about the things we weren't expecting. So
yeah, absolutely. Troy, before we get to your segment, I do real quick want to touch on the Detroit Pistons road trip that we are currently on, the longest road trip of the season, the road trip from hell, where we go to the West Coast. And so we just got our butts kicked in LA 2 nights in a row.
Not to say, I wouldn't call our second game butts kicked. We had a good fourth quarter comeback.
No, we had a solid game against the Lakers. Only lost by 4. Hey, heck of a game there. Troy, how many wins do you think we're getting on this road trip? Let me show what our next games are. Okay, let me tell you. So we got at Portland.
Nope.
At Phoenix.
Nope.
At home against Oklahoma City.
Yep.
At home against the Wizards.
No.
At the Pelicans.
Yeah.
At home against the Nets.
No.
At the Bulls.
No.
At the Pacers.
No.
And at home against the Rockets.
Yes.
Yes. Yeah, it's gonna be rough, man. What do you think of Kate Cunningham? Last couple games. So how have you felt about Kate's play?
Yeah, love his production to the floor. I think you can tell at some spurts, though, he's definitely had some rookie mistakes as far as turning the ball over, and some of. I'm not going to criticize his shot selection, but I think trying to shoot a 3 over Anthony Davis might have not been the smartest thing in the world last night. And just some of his shot selection, I think he'll get smarter at. I'm not saying they're bad shots, but he'll just develop that more as he gets up there in his career. But I like him. I mean, every game, Sean, even if he has a low production game, I'm still convinced he was the right choice over Jalen Green.
Oh yeah, 100%. He's been a blast. Pistons are currently on a 6-game losing streak, so let's hope we can turn it around. Hey, we are firm in that top 5 draft pick position, but we're also not the worst team in the Eastern Conference anymore.
Nope.
That award is comfortably going to go to the Orlando Magic by the end of the year. Also, Jalen Suggs is going to miss significant time for them. If I'm an Orlando Magic fan, maybe I think that's for the best, because he had a very, very rough start to his rookie year. So here's to hope he can turn that around and get healthy and have a better career than he was showing so far, because yikers on bikers. But with that, Troy, it is time for us to head over to From Mount Rushmore. What do we talk about today, Troy?
We're not quite doing Mount Rushmore today. We're going to start a new 5-part series that's very similar to what we did a couple months ago with Legacies. We did Legacies last year, and it's going to be very similar to this week, but we're going to do a little twist on it because we're just so excited about our Detroit Pistons, right? And we're going to do a Detroit Pistons legacy. Now, we're going to have 3 rules. 2 are going to be pretty much the same as the last. One's going to be the opposite of the third rule. And that rule is going to be they cannot have made an all-star game. All right. So no all-star players are allowed to be on this list. They had to have been a member of the Detroit Pistons from 2000 to 2021. And they currently cannot be on any NBA roster today in 2021.
Okay.
Are you ready to see who we're talking about today?
I'm ready.
Are you dying?
We
are talking about CV31, Charlie Villanueva.
I'm sorry. You want to start a new series about legacies, and you want to start this with Charlie Villanueva.
Didn't say it had to be good legacies, Sean.
Okay, good. I'm glad because listen, his legacy's terrible in the city of Detroit.
Yeah.
He was the true end of an era.
Mhm.
He was the worst signings that we've made in the past 15 years. He was brought in supposed to replace Rasheed Wallace, that kind of caliber play. Oh my gosh. First of all, ugliest player to ever play in the league. That's fact. That that melon he had of his. So, oh my goodness. Just so pasty and just he looked like something you made on like a PlayStation 2 version of 2K, or like you just went for like the goblin creative player in my player. Um
Sean,
but
he has a physical disability.
please tell me you're lying.
Alopecia Domano?
All right, so we are cutting all of that out of the podcast. Chris Anton got to listen to me get canceled. All right, let's start over. Charlie Villanueva. You want to start with him?
I do, Sean. I do. Didn't say it had to be a good legacy. So
Apparently not.
let's talk a little bit, Sean, about why we brought him in. You mentioned it's supposed to be the replacement of Rasheed Wallace. This guy was a college phenom with Ben Gordon, another guy that came in with him. And he was a guy that was very much a production player in Milwaukee beforehand. He wasn't a superstar. There's nowhere near he was caliber of the player that we paid him to be. We knew that going into this, but I guess what I'm looking at is, he's a guy in a free agent market. We're trying to rebuild, but also have the win now mentality in this 2009-2010 season.
They wanted to have their cake and eat it too.
Yeah. So I guess for you, Sean, try to put yourself in Joe Dumars' shoes in 2009, bringing in Charlie Villanueva.
Oh, I see his shoes. I know what he was trying to do. The problem is that it so obviously wasn't going to work. I mean, first of all, he was signed in on $50 million, right?
Mm-hmm.
5 years, $50 million alongside Ben Gordon. Literally was supposed to be massive deal for a franchise. First of all, never started more than 16 games in a season for Detroit. And that was his first year. He only played 13 games in the year 2011, 2012. He played in 69 games and started 0 in 2012, 2013. He played in 20 in 2013, 2014. So he very quickly and abruptly fell apart in the last half of his contract, the vast majority of his contract, by the way. And on top of that, he didn't have that muscle mentality to being a Detroit player.
Right.
He was a fan favorite, maybe. There's that one guy that got the tattoo of Charlie Villanueva.
Shout out to that guy. Actually, not shout out to that guy. That's weird.
Prayers to that guy. Prayers to that guy, because that's just it's just painful. But yeah, when I look at this team, there's just a lot that and then when I just look at his time in Detroit, there's just not a lot I can point at and say I had fun with that. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. And he was a guy that could somewhat stroke the three, and I think play post. He was like a very poor man's Rasheed Wallace. So I think that was a good comparison.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a bad comparison, but it's at least somewhat of a trying to replace, but did a poor job.
Maybe Dumars just thought he could have developed him into that kind of player, but but yet again, they really didn't want to develop anyone.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the Ben Gordon signing just didn't feel like that had any vision toward that. That's just the thing. It's just like Joe Dumars, like it just seemed like, with Tom Gores, he really had to learn the hard way that the only way that you win in this league is by having a clear direction and starting over fresh. Right. So maybe that's just a big piece of the reality, is just that we have a guy that just needs to how do I say it? But do you get what I'm saying though?
I do what you're saying.
Yeah,
And I think
like he just needed to learn the hard way of what happens in this league when you don't have that culture, when you don't have a clear vision and direction and a roster that fits it. I think it's
absolutely. And then moving a little bit past Detroit, he signs with
Mhm.
Dallas. I don't know how many years, maybe 3 years.
He
With
played there 1
Dallas.
year.
Oh, just one.
Mhm.
Okay, plays for Dallas for 1 year, and similar story. Just doesn't put up those numbers. I think maybe he found more of a home there because it's where I believe that was the last team he was on. And
Oh, he was there for 2 years. My mistake.
Two. That's what I thought. I knew it was a little bit more than one. 2 years, and I don't think he in any way redeemed his NBA career, but I think he at least didn't end on a sour note, because I feel like when you bring in a player with that amount of money and with that high of an expectation, like he was in Detroit, and he didn't fill those shoes, I think that can lead with a bitter taste in your mouth. So I think that Dallas thing may have been good for him, even though he didn't produce much.
I mean, listen, he was a decent role player, like towards the end of his career, or like, just in his career in general. But like Detroit didn't pay him to be a decent role player. They paid him to be one of their pillars. And it's not a pillar, just isn't.
Right. And I think the greatest legacy of Charlie Villanueva is brought in to be a pillar, but nothing about him was or is ever a pillar to your franchise. And I think that's something that, maybe we can learn a lesson, not just for the Detroit franchise, but for other franchises too, of, hey, don't expect a player to be the caliber player you want him to be if he hasn't shown any effort or past performance production that makes you think that. That's I think the greatest lesson we can learn from the Charlie Villanueva signing and the time he spent in Detroit. So
absolutely. Well, yes. Troy, it is a pillar. The podcast From Half Court in your schedule, where each and every week Troy and I sit down and talk all things NBA basketball. If you like it, be sure to like this video on YouTube. Subscribe to the channel, over 100 people strong. And of course, be sure to share with your friends. Leave a positive rating on the podcast services that you also love and choose. You can follow myself on Twitter at Sean Halfcourt. You can follow Troy on Twitter at TroySergi44, where you can continue the conversation with us all throughout the week. We want to thank you so much for watching, and we will catch you next time from Half Court. Be sure to subscribe.